So what's another thing? So we talked a little bit about the psychology behind sales
Yeah.
and barriers there. What are some other things that you find yourself coaching people not out of or into?
Yeah,
Like what are other
habits
habits
that
and
yeah.
stuff that people are struggling with in the sales communities?
Um, Making the most of their day.
Mm.
I did a poll today actually on LinkedIn, and out of the voters, I only had about 35 or 40, but the majority of them said that they struggled with consistent prospecting.
Hmm.
And I mean, like when you really think about it, doing consistent prospecting isn't difficult. A lot of it comes from insecurity because you know who to reach out to, but you're too nervous to, or you get in
Sure.
your own way because you think you're going to misword it, or you get in your own way because you don't think you're ready, or you get in your own way because of any wide variety of reasons. Like, so one way I'm often talking to clients about, and I think this is actually an advantage for me from a leadership standpoint. I didn't come from a wealthy family, which is something that I actually believe is a competitive advantage because I didn't come from an abundant mindset. Like a
Hmm.
lot of the time, you either have an abundant mindset in one area or you have a lack mindset. And many people, like, I'm sorry to say, I love the people in the Midwest, but in terms of business, they don't have an abundant mindset most of the time. People can take it however they want, but that's just kind of the fact of the matter. There's a reason why when people are talking about business, they don't talk about Iowa. They talk about New York. They talk about Silicon Valley. They talk about Chicago. I'm just being completely honest. Maybe it's just because more people live there. Who knows? But many people have a lack mindset. So that's what I'm like constantly challenging. That's what I'm constantly trying to get people out of is, you know, everybody wants to go make $1 million, but people don't even have an abundant mindset enough to go make 1,000 or 2,000 or 3,000, right? I mean, think about it. Like you see a lot of people working jobs that they hate making, what, 3,000, 4,000 per month.
Hmm.
And the reason why they're doing that, they don't have the confidence and the belief in themselves at their core that they can actually go make more money than that.
Right. Or do
And
what
a
they
lot
want
of
to
it,
do.
you go, Frank.
No, or do what they want to do in the
Yeah.
first place.
And a lot of that stems from just such low belief in themselves. This is like, I know people are always talking about leadership development and they're like, go be a good leader and whatnot. But I firmly believe there's such a clear, distinct line between a good leader and a good boss, because, or good leader and a bad boss, because I hate the term boss. But anyways, a boss pushes people down. They're insecure people. And like that can come from their upbringing, that can come from a wide variety of reasons, but it's a downward spiral. But a leader is somebody who pushes other people up. And that's something that I'm very passionate about. I mean, you even look at the world today, there are a lot of people fighting, right?
Mm.
At least like you focus on the United States. If we had more leaders, people would be able to understand people because they can understand themselves. They'd be more logical. They wouldn't be so emotional. And then they'd be able to actually help other people rather than just
Right.
constantly just battles and saying, you're wrong, you're wrong. Because if you look at it, like even I saw something the other day and it talked about, and I don't get political, and this isn't even political, but I don't understand how something along the lines, I don't understand how it's greedy to want to have the money you earned, but not greedy to want to take the money from, let's start over again. I don't understand how it's greedy to want to keep the money that you have made, but it's not greedy to want to take money from people who have earned the money. And like, no matter where you fall on the political spectrum, everybody has their own opinions, but like somebody who wants to keep their money, they work for it, so they want to keep it.
Sure.
And then you get the other person, maybe they didn't come from such a great background. And that's why they want the money of the other person's, because they think the other person started at a higher level. And so that's why they made the money that they did. It all comes down to perspective. This is why I like psychology so much. And I know I'm getting way off in a rant, but does this make sense so far?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there anything confusing about this since I'm jumping around so much?
No. Go. You're following a train of thought. It's not
Yeah,
like
right,
all of a
yeah.
sudden you started talking about hot dog vendors after you're you've been
No,
hot at
we could pick up. See, we're slightly intelligent too.
But yeah,
we
right.
could follow your train of thought.
I
And
know you
we've
guys.
also-
No. It's just I jump around so much.
and we come from a background where if the conversation doesn't jump, I can't even follow it if it doesn't jump.
Right.
So it's to the point where it's easier to follow as you're jumping. I can see where you're building your thought to, but
Right.
let's.
Like, let me give a practical example that happened recently. So there was a contract that I needed to sign for work as of late. And I ended up talking with my parents about it. And rather than focus on the optimism or the optimistic side about like how good the contract can be for me. They were focusing on, well, what if the contract has this little detail which might be able to screw you over in the future? Maybe you should have a lawyer get. It's good to have like lawyers check it out, but the problem is people with a lack mindset get hung up on every damn little detail. Like I get optimistic, realistic, pessimistic, but often these lines are blurred, and you need to be more realistic / optimistic. But a lot of people with a lack mindset, they want to just it all comes down to what you're focusing on. So I do this every single day. I do a daily checklist. And one of the things I write down, 3 things I'm grateful for. That came from the book, The Slight Edge. The reason why I do that is because it all comes down to training my brain on what I focus on. If I end the day, I should probably do it at the beginning of the day too. But if I train my brain to focus on positive things, what I have, I'm just going to attract more of that into my life. That same with like, if you look at sales, another thing that I write down, I don't want to have more than 30 personal clients. And I bet there are, between salespeople, entrepreneurs, more than 20 million people out there. You probably suck at your craft if you can't get 30 people out of 20 million, right? And so if you really think about it from an abundant perspective, go fail. You'll find opportunities.
Sure.
Or last point I want to talk on. You know how I was talking to you about how I made that job posting earlier today to get some brand ambassadors, right? Like, so many people don't want to hire to bring money in. What I mean by that is if I get brand ambassadors, I go give them a commission, they bring in business, that's making my job easier. I'm paying them. And really, like at the end of things, it's not really that much of a loss because quite honestly, when you're a business owner, you can deduct expenses. So it's just little things like that. Like I'm not even spending money. And plus people look at it as spending money, but it's an investment. Like you're investing in a person. And the byproduct too is you're developing that person too. Like I get to meet with this person and hopefully build them if they want to get into sales. Hopefully I can jumpstart their career, get them connected to the right person after they work for me for a period of time, you know?
Right. Yeah. We can really understand where you're coming from, especially on the parent side of things because of, if you, and we like in our background, like we've never like had a want for money. We didn't come from we're upper middle class, right? That's the easiest way to put it. But the reason why we're there is because of our mother is very much like, hey, we're only spending this amount of money. We go cheap and we save money and then we invest money and everything like that. So when it comes to time to like, all right, well, we're going to like when we joined the accelerator workbox, I had more like, well, what if this happens? Do you really think this is going to work? Do you really think this is going to work? And on my side, I was like, aha, I found something. I did my research. I looked at it. I was like, this is going to work. And I got negative coming back about like, do you really need to spend this money to do this? Couldn't you do something else? And I was like, and it's such a downer, right? But that's that lack mindset of getting hung up on those little details where I'm like, listen, I know, and it has already paid for itself, the knowledge and everything that I've gotten. So it ends up working out in the long run. But
most of the time when you invest in yourself, it's like one of those things where it's like, I always try to think of like people who have a really weird, people who don't invest in themselves, like kind of like ass backwards about it. It's like, I always think about those guys that soup up those like really crappy cars. It's like those, so like, those like the cheap Nissan or the cheap Kia, those things where it's like the guy, it's like he bought that car for $5,000, maybe a little less than that. But once he has it, it's lost 50,000, like it's lost half of its worth. And then he goes in and he puts in a new engine, a new exhaust, a new like everything. And so he put $1,500 back into it. And so now he spent $1,500 to maintain a car that was worth less. So he spent $1,500 and lost $1,500. And it's like those people that like, if you invest in stupid things like that, as opposed to investing in like in yourself, like, whether that's education or, something that like will actually help you move forward in your career and actually invest in yourself. And I feel like people who come from that lack mindset tend to think that everything is as stupid as buying that car. It's like, well, no, it's like if you invest your money in something that will pay you back on the back end with either knowledge or experience or something. It's much better than paying for a stupid car that you constantly is constantly losing value. Like that education will only continue to grow in value because of the things he's able to do after that.
Right. See, unless I get lobotomized.
Right. Well, hope not.
Jack, that was a super good point, because that clearly demonstrates the difference of how like you don't know what you don't know. Mm-hmm. So a lot of those people literally don't. I remember when I was growing up, and there's nothing wrong with this car, but I in high school, I really wanted to have a. It wasn't a Mustang. Oh my gosh, what car?
Charger? Dodge Charger?
Challenger. Smart. There you go. You
said like, Mustang. The only other American muscle car is Dodge. So
I remember talking with my parents, and I really wanted to have a Challenger. It's still a nice car, but like now I want to have an Audi. I want to have an Audi R8, right? Yeah. And it's a completely different car. It's completely different, like brand in and of itself.
Yeah.
But right there, I mean, it just shows how like when you really focus on your mindset, it makes a big change. Or like a little thing. Going back to investing in themselves, people with a lack mindset, if they have the money, they want to buy it now. Like I'd love to go drop money and go get a Rolex right now. But would that be the smartest decision? No. So I'd reinvest it back in the business. And when you reinvest it back in the business, you do it the right way, you have more money anyways. Like go get two, go get three of them. And I'm not to like go spend it on that. And people go get, I like watches, relax, everybody with that. But people with a lack mindset, they're so short-term focused, and they're afraid that the money's just going to go away. When you believe in yourself and your abilities, like I know I can make money. And so like if I go spend it on investment to go build my authority, bring in leads, do whatever, I know it's going to come back. It's all just, to me, it's really just the sake of time. Sure. Like everything really can pay off as long as like you're intelligent enough to think it through and you're aware of like, let's say digital marketing. It's just the time frame for that ROI, that return on investment.